The Roman gladiators are among the most iconic figures in history, symbols of blood, courage, and the brutal entertainment of ancient Rome. Yet, beneath the sand of the Colosseum lies a world far more complex than simple combat. Gladiators weren't just slaves forced to fight. Many were celebrities, military prisoners, and even volunteers seeking fame and fortune. Their world was governed by strict rules, honor codes, and intricate social hierarchies that reflected the might and morality of the Roman Empire. The origins of gladiatorial combat trace back to ancient Etruscan funeral rites, where slaves fought to honor the dead. Over time, Rome transformed this ritual into a public spectacle. By the 1st century BCE, gladiator games were among the most popular forms of mass entertainment, drawing tens of thousands of spectators to arenas like the Colosseum, where emperors used blood sports to display power and win public favor. Gladiators came from many backgrounds. Some were enslaved prisoners of war, others were criminals condemned to die, and a surprising number were octorati-free men who voluntarily became gladiators in pursuit of wealth or glory. Each gladiator was trained in specialized schools known as ludi, where they mastered distinct fighting styles, from the heavily armored mirmillo, with sword and shield, to the agile retiarius, armed only with a net and trident. Despite their low social standing, successful gladiators could achieve immense fame. Their images adorned walls, pottery, and jewelry, and Roman women idolized them. In some cases, victorious gladiators earned enough prize money to buy their freedom, becoming living legends of the arena. The fights themselves followed strict choreography and codes of conduct. Not all battles ended in death. Many were skillful duels where technique and endurance were more important than killing. The famous gesture pollice verso, thumbs up or down, symbolized the emperor's final decision over a fallen fighter's fate, though historians still debate what the gesture actually meant. Behind the grandeur, however, was a dark reality. Gladiators lived under constant threat of injury and death. Their training was brutal, their diets controlled, and their lives commodified for entertainment. Yet even in this brutality, there existed a twisted sense of respect. Gladiators embodied Roman virtues of strength, discipline, and courage, qualities that Rome itself prided upon. The fall of the gladiatorial games came with the rise of Christianity. As Roman morals evolved and the empire weakened, the once glorious arenas turned into relics of a violent past. The last recorded gladiator fights occurred around the 5th century CE, marking the end of an era that had lasted nearly 700 years. Today, the legend of the gladiators lives on, not just as a reminder of ancient brutality, but as a reflection of human fascination with heroism, sacrifice, and the thin line between entertainment and death. Their stories reveal how deeply spectacle shaped Roman society, and how the echoes of the Colosseum still resonate in modern sports and media culture. The story of the gladiators begins long before Rome's rise to power. The roots of these brutal games trace back to the Etruscans, a civilization that predated Rome in the Italian peninsula. The Etruscans believed that bloodshed could honor the spirits of the dead. During funerals of nobles, slaves or prisoners were forced to fight to the death as a sacrifice to please the gods. This grim ritual was known as munera, meaning duty or offering. When Rome absorbed Etruscan traditions, it also inherited this blood sport. What began as small-scale funeral games evolved into massive public spectacles. The first recorded Roman gladiatorial combat took place in 264 BCE, when the sons of Junius Brutus honored their father by staging fights between 3 pairs of slaves in the Forum Boarium. The crowd loved it, and the Roman elite quickly realized its power. Over the next century, gladiator fights became a political tool. Ambitious politicians sponsored games to win popularity. Julius Caesar famously organized massive gladiator contests with hundreds of fighters to secure public favor during his climb to power. The games soon moved from funerals to dedicated arenas, growing ever more extravagant as Rome expanded. By the time of the empire, emperors used the games to project dominance and unity. The Colosseum, completed under Emperor Titus in 80 CE, could hold over 50,000 spectators, Inside, people of all classes gathered: senators, merchants, slaves, united by the thrill of blood and glory. But the games were more than violence. They were a reflection of Roman ideals. The courage of the gladiator symbolized the strength of Rome itself. Death in the arena was not seen as meaningless. It was a spectacle of valor, discipline, and divine favor. This transformation from ritual sacrifice to organized sport marked one of history's most striking examples of how religion, politics, and entertainment intertwine. To the Romans, gladiators were both property and prized assets. Every fighter was owned by a lannis, to a trainer and manager who ran the ludus gladiatorius, or gladiator school. These schools were not places of comfort, but of discipline and endurance. New recruits, whether slaves, prisoners of war, or volunteers, were stripped of their identities and assigned a fighting style. They were trained daily under the supervision of seasoned veterans. The training grounds echoed with the clash of wooden swords, shouts of command, and the grunts of men learning to survive. Diet played a crucial role. Contrary to popular belief, gladiators were not muscular giants. They maintained a layer of fat to protect vital organs. Their diet mainly consisted of barley, beans, and a calcia, rich drink made from charred bones, earning them the nickname horderii, or barley men. Despite the brutality, a strange camaraderie formed among them. Gladiators shared an unspoken brotherhood bound by fate. Each day was a battle between life and death, yet they trained with respect, knowing that today's friend might be tomorrow's opponent. Life inside the ludus was tightly controlled. Escape attempts were rare and often fatal. However, those who excelled could gain privileges: better food, cleaner quarters, and eventually, a chance for freedom through victory. The mark of a skilled fighter was discipline, not recklessness. These schools became institutions across the empire, producing professional warriors admired and feared by the public. Perhaps the most famous of all was the Ludus Magnus. Located right next to the Colosseum, its underground tunnels connected directly to the arena, where gladiators would walk toward destiny, hearing the roar of 50,000 voices. Every gladiator was trained for a specific style, each designed to showcase a unique combat philosophy. The Romans loved contrast: speed versus strength, light armor versus heavy shields. These battles were not random. They were theatrical performances of balance and skill. The Murmillo fought with a large rectangular shield scutum and a short sword gladius. His helmet, adorned with a fish crest, symbolized the Roman soldier's might. Facing him was often the Thrax or Thracian, armed with a curved sword sica and a small shield. The duel between these two represented Rome's power against its conquered enemies. Another crowd favorite was the Retiarius, the net fighter. Lightly armored, he carried only a trident and a net, representing agility and cunning. His usual opponent, the Secutor, wore smooth armor designed to deflect the net's grip. Their chase was a deadly dance: speed and intelligence against brute strength. Other types included the Hoplomachus, modeled after Greek warriors, and the Dimiceros, who wielded two swords at once. Each pairing was carefully chosen to thrill the audience, ensuring that every fight told a story of survival and spectacle. Weapons were kept sharp and armor decorative. The Romans even employed referees called summarudis to ensure fairness and maintain the illusion of honor. Though fights were deadly, most were not meant to end in death. A skilled gladiator was too valuable to lose unless his defeat served a dramatic purpose. The arena thus became a stage: every duel a performance, every wound a story, every victory a legend. Despite being slaves, gladiators were Rome's rock stars. Their fame rivaled that of generals and politicians. Crowds cheered their names, murals depicted their victories, and noblewomen secretly adored them. Some gladiators even had fan clubs and personal sponsors. Victory meant more than survival, it meant glory. Winning 10 or more matches could earn a fighter his freedom, symbolized by a wooden sword called the rudis. Few achieved it, but those who did became legends. Yet fame came at a price. Every fight carried the risk of death. A wounded gladiator would look to the emperor or crowd for mercy. The famous thumbs up or down gesture decided his fate, though historians debate whether thumbs up meant mercy or death. Regardless, it was the crowd's roar that sealed his destiny. Some gladiators chose to fight voluntarily. They signed contracts, accepting the risks for wealth and celebrity. To the Romans, this was ultimate bravery to face death willingly in the name of honor. Even in defeat, a gladiator could earn respect. Dying with composure and courage was considered noble. The Romans admired stoicism, facing fate without fear. Thus, the arena became not just a place of death, but of moral theater. In this paradox, gladiators lived as slaves but died as heroes. Their lives embodied Rome's greatest contradiction: civilization built on brutality. As centuries passed, the blood-soaked sands began to lose their charm. The Roman Empire's strength waned, and new beliefs rose to challenge its traditions. Christianity spread rapidly, preaching compassion and condemning blood sport as immoral. By the 4th century CE, several emperors attempted to limit the games. The final blow came under Emperor Honorius, who banned gladiatorial combat in 404 CE, after the monk Telemachus sacrificed his life protesting the violence. The great arenas fell silent. The Colosseum, once filled with the roar of the crowd, became a relic of Rome's past. Its stones were later used for churches and buildings, a symbol of transformation from pagan brutality to Christian peace. Yet the spirit of the gladiator never died. Modern sports, wrestling, and even cinema echo their legacy. The idea of heroism under pressure, of risking everything for glory, still captivates humanity. From boxing rings to stadiums, echoes of the Colosseum persist in every cheer, every contest, every victory. The gladiators may be gone, but their courage and the lessons of their age continue to remind us that history's heroes often emerge from the darkest arenas.